You set down the fine-tipped brush. The Flemish panel is done. 3 months of work, and now the Madonna's cracked cheek is smooth again, the gold leaf repaired, the varnish breathing the way it did in 1642. You photograph it from every angle under the raking light. Perfect. You wrap it in acid-free tissue, place it in the crate, and lock the studio door behind you. It's a Tuesday. The museum courier comes Friday. You have 3 days to do nothing. You're halfway through your second glass of wine when the buzzer sounds. You don't answer it. Nobody knows your studio address except clients, and your clients are museums, private collectors, insurance adjusters, people who schedule appointments 4 weeks in advance and bring letters of provenance. The buzzer sounds again. Then someone holds it down and doesn't let go. You press the intercom. A woman's voice, frantic. She says your name. She says she got it from a man named Gerhardt. That Gerhardt said you were the only one who could help her, that she has something that's hurt and she needs you tonight. You ask what she means by hurt. She says, a painting. She says, badly damaged. She says, please. You look at the wine on your table. You look at the buzzer panel. You buzz her in. She comes up the stairs carrying it rolled in a hotel bedsheet. You unwrap it on the work table under your UV lamp, and your stomach drops. It's a Modigliani, or the elongated eyes looking at something just past the frame. If it's real, it's worth 20 million, maybe more, and someone has put a fist through it. The tear runs 8 inches across the lower right corner. The canvas is fractured. There's smoke damage along the edge. Someone tried to clean it with something wrong, something acidic, and now there's a ghost bloom spreading across the lower third. You ask her where it came from. She looks away. You ask her where she got it. She says, it belongs to my family. She says, it was taken during the war. She says, I finally got it back. She says, please don't ask me anything else. You look at the painting. You look at her. She's wearing the same earrings your mother used to wear, small gold discs. You notice things like that. It's the job. You tell her you can't touch it. You tell her a work like this needs authentication, provenance research, institutional oversight. If this is what you think it is, it belongs in a chain of custody, not on your work table at 11 o'clock at night. She opens her bag. She puts 40,000 euros on the table, in banded notes, the kind that don't ask questions. You stand there for a long time. You think about your father's studio, the one you grew up in, the smell of turpentine and old wood, the way he taught you that a painting is a living thing, that your only job is to listen to what it needs. You think about the last grant that fell through, the equipment lease coming due, the fact that the museum pays you well, but slow, that there's 3 months of invoices sitting unpaid, and rent doesn't care about museum timelines. You put the money in your desk drawer. You ask her to come back in 6 weeks. The work is extraordinary. You start with the tear. You build a new lining canvas, identical weave stretched to the same tension. You fill the losses with rabbit skin glue in chalk, layer by layer, thinner than paper. You in-paint the missing passages with watercolor first, reversible, so someone can always undo what you've done. You never let your restoration touch original paint. You are filling absences, not making claims. You work 18-hour days. You forget to eat. You forget it's Tuesday, then Friday, then Tuesday again. When you're done, you can't see the repair in raking light. You can't see it in UV. You can barely see it in your own memory, and you were there for every brush stroke. You call her. She comes. She stands in front of it for a very long time. Then she puts her hand over her mouth. You tell her it isn't perfect. You tell her a proper conservator with proper equipment would see the in-painting under X-ray fluorescence, that the lining canvas is technically detectable. She isn't listening. She's crying, quietly, into her own hand. She leaves with the painting. She leaves an envelope. Inside, another 20,000 euros and a handwritten note in French that says, "Thank you for giving her back to us." You sit in the empty studio for a long time. You pour yourself a glass of wine. You drink it looking at the blank wall where the painting rested. You tell yourself it was one time. Gerhardt calls 3 weeks later. You know it's him before he says his name. The silence on the line is his, considered, patient. He says, "I heard the result was exceptional." He says, "I have a client. A Degas pastel, water damaged, badly foxed, needs attention, discreet attention." He says, "Same terms, double the fee." You look at the unpaid invoices on your desk. You look at the new spectrometer in the corner, still in its shipping foam, bought on credit you don't have. You say, "Send me photographs." Word spreads the way it always does in this world. Quietly. Through the rooms where old money meets old art and nobody asks anything out loud. A Flemish still life, relined and inpainted, panels rejoined. A portrait miniature, 18th century, with fire damage along the ivory. A Sheila drawing with a fold crease so deep the paper had almost split. You fix them all. You take photographs of every stage, not for the clients, for yourself. Evidence of method, you tell yourself. Proof that you didn't damage anything. Proof that you only added and never subtracted. The clients come and go through the back entrance. They carry things wrapped in blankets, in guitar cases, once in a child's backpack. They leave cash. They never tell you where the works came from. You never ask. You learn not to look up auction records. You learn not to check the art loss register. You learn to look at a painting and see only the painting, the damage, the need, the silence where color used to be. You hire an assistant, young, brilliant, trained in Florence. You don't tell her about the Tuesday clients. She works on the institutional projects, the insured work, the work with paperwork. You do the other work alone, at night, under the raking lamp. Your studio gets new equipment, a hyperspectral camera, a proper humidity-controlled storage room, a Zeiss microscope you've wanted since you were 23 years old. You tell yourself the studio is finally what it was always supposed to be. They come for you on a Thursday. Not the police. You've braced for the police. You know what you'd say. I had no knowledge of provenance. I acted in good faith. Here is my documentation of method. Here is every reversible decision clearly notated. It wouldn't be enough, maybe, but it would be something. These men are not the police. There are two of them, and they're waiting in the alley when you take out the bins. One of them shows you a photograph on a phone. It's the Modigliani. It's the first one, the woman with the gold earrings, your 6 weeks of work. He says, "We'd like to know who brought this to you." You say nothing. He says, "We'd like to know where it is now." You say nothing. The second man opens a briefcase. Inside, in a padded frame, is a small panel painting. Northern European, maybe 1480. A Madonna and Child with a cracked gesso ground and centuries of discolored varnish. Beautiful. Ruined. Crying out for attention the way damaged things always cry out to you. He says, "This belongs to our employer." He says, "Our employer has a collection." He says, "Our employer has been looking for someone like you for a very long time." You look at the panel. You look at the Madonna's cracked face. You look at the men. You say, "I need a list of every work, condition reports, storage environment specifications, and I need to work in my own studio." He closes the briefcase. He smiles. He says, "Our employer's facility has everything you need. Better than this, even." He opens the car door. You look up at your studio window. The light is on. Your assistant is still up there, working late on the Flemish altarpiece.